Hello and welcome back to the Games Kingdom. Today we're going to be taking a look at and through the rulebook for the excellent new RPG The Magnus Archives and some of its associated downloads that you can get via the website of the publisher, namely Monty Cook Games. So for those of you that don't know, the Magnus Archives is based on a podcast which is available on YouTube. It may be also available on other outlets, but I listen to it via YouTube. And it is a podcast that is examining what lurks in the archives of the Magnus Institute, based in London, an organisation dedicated to researching the esoteric and the weird. So, in the role-playing game for the Magnus Archives, you and your friends will take on the roles of archival assistants assigned to investigate the strange occurrences reported to the Institute by those that have encountered the mysterious and the supernatural. So this rulebook and the associated downloads that you will see provide you with everything you need to play, which include the complete game rules, detailed information on how to create your characters, an extensive overview of the entities, monsters, books, artifacts and characters that make the Magnus Archives so enthralling and terrifying at the same time, and some adventures to challenge and terrify your group. It's everything you need to play, whether with the investigations presented to you within the book or with some terrors that you can craft yourself. It's worth noting that the book does not include anything from outside the bounds of the first 5 seasons of the Magnus Archives podcast and its canon, including the episodes specifically labelled as not being part of the Magnus canon and the entirety of the Magnus Protocol podcasts. So some of the terms may be familiar to you if you are a seasoned role-playing gamer. But if you're not, then some of the terms that you will be hearing me speak about and you will see in the book and also in the downloads are things like GM, which is your game master, and this is the player who doesn't run any of a particular character in the group itself, but instead guides the flow of the story and runs all of the NPCs. So the NPCs are non-player characters, and they, as I say, are run by the GM, and you think of them as minor characters that are in the stories, or the villains, opponents that you may meet, some of the monsters, as well as obviously humans and maybe a few demons and things that may crop up whilst you're playing through the game itself. Your party, if it's referred to in the book, is the group of characters and perhaps some of your NPC allies that obviously will be inhabiting the world whilst playing through the game. You've got PCs, which are your player characters, so these are the characters that are done by the sort of human game players but are not controlled by the GM themselves. So these will be the people that will be playing the roles of the archival assistants, and they are the main characters within the story itself. So then you've got a session, so you could have a single play experience, usually lasting a few hours. Sometimes one adventure can be accomplished in a single session, but more often one adventure may take multiple sessions, and similar to an episode of, say, a podcast or a TV program. An adventure is a single portion of the campaign with a beginning, middle and end. A campaign is a series of sessions strung together with an overarching story for a linked story with the same player characters. And often, but not always, a campaign could involve multiple adventures dealing with multiple scenarios and different sort of NPCs and entities, monsters and artifacts and things that will crop up within those different sessions, but they will all combine to make a campaign. So every player character will have 3 defining characteristics, which are typically called statistics or stats, and they are might, speed and intellect, and we'll show you bits and pieces of those sorts of things when we have a look through the book in a bit. how you create your character is really simple. You've got some downloadable character sheets that you can use, but you could just use pen and paper. So you just literally choose from one of the 4 types of characters in chapter 3 in the book. You follow the instructions provided you for gaining your stats, abilities, equipment and ciphers. And then a walkthrough example of a player creating a character accompanies each type, so that will also help you in the book. So that's quite a nice little addition that the publisher and the writers have put in there. They will actually talk you through how to produce a character type that you wish to play. And you choose a descriptor for your character from chapter 2, and that also gives you your starting skills. You choose a focus from chapter 4, and you choose a character arc from chapter 8. So as I say, all of that is within varying chapters within the book. So once you've completed this, your character's all done, you're up and ready to begin your investigations. So once you've done that, you can start playing the game, and you know, good luck, because you'll definitely need it, because the things that you will see and meet within the game are really going to test you and your characters to the limit. So without any sort of further ado, we'll get a look through the rulebook, and as I say, some of the free downloads available that as soon as you've watched this video, even if you haven't got the book, you can go on, you can download those things, and it will give you a brief insight into some of the things that are in this rule book, and to give you a flavour of whether this game is going to be for you and whether you want to then go ahead and purchase the main book. So as you can see, I've marked a few pages with some little pieces of post-it, so we'll make sure that we show you those, but we'll have a quick flick through. As in all good books and rule books, you've got your chapters and your index. So when I said to you about the various bits in chapters 4, 8, 3 and whatever, as you can see, they're all listed here. So it'll tell you the character types, focus, equipment, ciphers, and then the character arcs and advancement. So all of that is literally detailed in the front of the book. So if you need to go and find a specific section, just go to the table of contents and you'll be able to start. So there is an intro at the front from the people on the podcast, because the people who are doing the podcast are obviously, they're using their real names and things, so they've done a bit of a forward in the book. And there's also obviously the podcast that you can go and have a listen to get some sort of insight into what you're going to potentially face within the game. But the podcast itself is very good. I'm currently on episode about 139 of the first 200, and yeah, there is an overarching story through all of it, but there are several episodes where nothing is related to the story, or so you think, but eventually I believe that it'll all sort of interweave and will come to a head at the conclusion of the podcast series. I think there's 200 in the first one. So here we've got your basic game concepts, so obviously about the game itself. So I believe the game is based on something called the cipher system. So if you go onto the Monty Cook website, you'll be able to have a look and download things about how the cipher system works, and I think it's been tweaked a little bit for this, but it's basically that system. So if you have played that system in some games before, then you've got a good head start on people like myself who haven't, but I'm looking forward to getting a game of this sorted out. So you've got your things like your glossaries, your player characters. So obviously it starts off, and there's a nice flow to the book as well. We've seen some rule books in our time as gamers in our group where they just literally jump here, there and everywhere. But this is a nice flowing rule book that has basically sort of been worked out so that it'll sort of guide you through all of the process that you need to sort of go through to start up a game, start up the characters, and then obviously play the game. So you'll find this is well put together. So you've got your characters, description and skills here in chapter 2, which is what I was saying to you earlier, these sort of chapters will be starting points for you to sort of get into your character creation, decide what sort of character your archivist or archival assistant is going to be, because you really want a sort of mixture within the group, because you'll all got different characteristics, different skills, which will be good for doing different tasks when you're called upon to do them within the game itself. And as you can see, there's very sort of nice thematic artwork. Some is in colour and some is in black and white, which adds that sort of noir effect. So you've got all of that going on. So again, a very nicely produced book, as you can see here. We're still going through the character description and skills chapter 2. So this is where we started. As I said to you, you can choose one of your 4 types, your character types, in chapter 3. So you can be an investigator, and obviously it'll give you all the bits and pieces that you can do as an investigator. You can be a protector, so again it'll give you all of the bits and pieces of information you need and things that you can select to have as skills and that sort of thing when you're choosing that particular character type. You can be an elocutionist, and again some very nice artwork here, very sort of, as I say, thematic within the game sort of genre of sort of a horror RPG. And you can also be an occultist. So as I say, all of these character types will be useful and pretty much required. So if you've got a party of 4 or more, you're probably best at least having one of each type in your party if you can, and then obviously if you've got anything up to sort of 8 maybe, you can sort of double up on 1 or 2 of those particular character types. You've got your character focus in chapter 4, and then you've got your list of foci, so you have to be careful how you pronounce that when you're on a video. So yeah, it'll just go again, give you all of your different sort of levels and tiers of what you can do and choose and become during your sort of advancement within the field of being a archival assistant. And there are some very nice things that you can choose and pick, and very sort of thematic again of shows like your X-Files, The Thing, all those sorts of stuff. There's a list of things in the back of the book where they've drawn their inspiration from, and where you can sort of do the same if you want to get some ideas of maybe how to run games and what games and the adventures and things that you can dream up for your parties to play in. So again, we're still going through the character focus section here, so it is quite large, and you've got a lot of information and a lot of areas where you can sort of focus on, literally. So this is all still chapter 4. In chapter 5 you get into the equipment that your character can obviously use. So you've got your lanterns, binoculars, and then you come on to your weapons, miscellaneous services. So you know, you've got a huge variety of things here, and you've obviously got some lists and bits and pieces that you can use and draw on. So you know, you've got like your bolt cutters, torches, guns obviously, although if you're fighting a lot of supernatural things, guns may not be the best form of defense. Then in chapter 6 you get onto your cipher, and it tells you how to gain and replenish your ciphers, and then your cipher lists. So again, all of this will be explained once you go through the book. So today's video is not sort of telling you how to play the game, it's just giving you a quick sort of flick through the book so you can see how well produced it is, what sort of game it is, what it's all about, how much information there is, and how that's going to influence you and influence your games with your parties and your sort of gaming groups. So then on chapter 7 we get to the rules of the game. So it says, you know, about taking actions, key concepts, and rolling the dice, which is always part of your role-playing games, is the dice rolling. You've got GM intrusions. Obviously I'm trying to read some of these upside down, so forgive me if I pronounce them incorrectly. You've got how interactions will happen within the game. Combat, you'll inevitably get into combat with not only human NPCs, but monsters, entities and other bits and pieces within the game, because that's primarily what's going to crop up and what you're going to be sort of battling against. You're battling against things in the supernatural world, not in the sort of human world. You've got cooperative actions, special situations, stress and injury. So obviously you will sort of potentially be damaged, or your character will, within the game. So obviously you'll be marking that down onto your player sheets, and some of those injuries may well mean that you have to sort of sit out for a while whilst you're resting up, or you get first aid or medical treatment. It may mean that you know, you're hospitalized for a session and your character can't do anything, so you might take on the role of somebody else or an NPC if the GM wants you to sort of continue in the game. So there's all of those sort of little things that will crop up in the game. You've got your character arcs and advancement, so obviously your character will gain experience and stuff, as with all sort of RPGs. Your character, if it's going through a campaign, will gain experience from each adventure and will be able to take that into the continuing story arc of the campaigns, and even the one-shots if you're just doing those rather than sort of joining all of them together. So that's quite a big section. You've got your statement. So basically each episode of the podcast is based on a statement from somebody who's gone into the Institute and has described to the archivist or a archival assistant their encounter with something that is not normal. So whether it be a ghost, a situation, going into a house, on a jungle expedition, all those sorts of things that will crop up, and you've seen crop up in sort of films, books, graphic novels and other sort of forms of media, video games. You can draw on all of those aspects and all of those storylines and into the games like this, and that's the sort of thing that you will be basing your games on. It will normally be that the GM will do a statement, a fictional statement. You will get that statement and your game will begin once you've read that statement, and you'll go out and investigate that person's statement and try and sort of legitimize it and find out if it's true, try and find the people involved in it if they're still alive, anybody else who may well be sort of on the periphery of the stories, visit the locations. All of that will come from the initial statement, and if you read some of those statements whilst you're listening to the podcasts, you'll get a better flavour of how that all interacts within the game and makes that game flow and the storyline come to life. So chapter 10 is all about the entities. So obviously in games like this you're going to meet all sorts of weird and wonderful creatures, whether it be sort of deformed humans, zombies, vampires, spiders, all sorts of creatures from the weird and wonderful supernatural world that we've all dreamt up over the millennia. And then obviously you've got characters and bits and pieces that will come into, or can come into, some of these stories. So all of these here, you've got death. So they're all sort of outlined for you to be able to use within the realms of the game itself. So as I say, we're just having a quick flick through here, but you can see that again there's lots of very nice artwork. You know, you got monster pigs, you've got the mirror haunt. You know, it's there's a plethora of stuff that you can use and draw on, and then obviously you can bring anything in from your imagination, or as I say, from other things that you've seen and sort of read in books and films and stuff like that. So as I say, we go through the book and you've still got all of this stuff. So you've got artifacts and books, so these will crop up and will be parts of the storylines, and in the podcast itself, some of the things that crop up all the time are artifacts that will pass from person to person as they move through the story, and you can do that with your campaigns if you wish. So all of that you can again get from here. So again, this is still all the artifacts and books section right up to here. And then in chapter 14 it gives you all about running the game, so both players and GMs alike can read this stuff, and obviously you will get a flavour of how the game is going to run, because even the players are going to need to know how the game is going to work. So because this is not necessarily like your D&Ds and stuff like this, so this is, as I say, a different, completely different area and theme. So you know, you've got, as I say, a very large section here on the running of the game, and you know, it's very, very in depth, but a very enjoyable read. As I said, I've read quite a bit of this now, sort of starting from the front and obviously working through, but you can pick and choose where you want to start. You know, if you like looking at all of the entities, monsters and all the treasure and stuff first, then you know, dive in where you wish. But if you're looking to get into the game, I suggest that you start at the front and work your way through it, and then it will all make more sense as you progress through that storyline of the book, simply because, as I say, it's been well thought out and well sort of placed in sections for you to sort of follow on, and for it to become relevant and sort of, that's how that works because this was explained earlier. So you'll get into that sort of mindset of one will explain the other as it goes along through the book. So we've still got running the game back here. So this is obviously a very large section of the book, simply because running the game is the most important thing of getting that experience down for not only the GM but also for the group that is playing. And then at the back here you've got a couple of adventures. So you've got Adventure 1, the Resurrection Mound. So it will give you all that you need to know to be able to play that particular adventure. Then Liquefy is Adventure 2. So those two are given to you as a starting point. You don't need to use them, but again, it's a good starting point because it'll get you into the game and get your group into the game, and everything's been done for you if you want to do this as a GM. Then this section here will show you about the how to do a witness statement. So you can photocopy these pages at your leisure. Permission has been given it within the book that you can do that by purchasing the book. You get that, but you can also download all of these pages, and I'll show you the downloads in a minute. But basically you will write this witness statement out as if you were a sort of NPC, and then give that to your players. They will read through that, and that's what the beginning of the story is. Then you've got your character sheets where you'll jot down all of your characteristics, all of your equipment. So you know, as I say, you've got your might, your speed and your intelligence. We'll show you properly the right way up, but all of these are as I say, part of downloads. And then you've got a full comprehensive index here, alphabetized, and you can sort of go to a certain page and find what you need. And as I say, it's from Monty Cook Games using the Cipher system. Rusty Quill are the people who do the podcast for the Magnus Archives, and you know, it's a nice chunky book. It's been very well produced. It's not a cheap rule book, but it is I believe very well produced for what it is, and for the whole game, you know, I think that's not a bad way to get into something if you want a new role-playing experience. So here we've got the first of our downloads. So this is the role-playing game. So this just gives you a little bit of what we've seen in the book there. So again, you've got a few pages of the book, so you can download this free of charge from the Monty Cook site. You find the Magnus Archive section, and you can download some of these pages from that main book and get yourself sort of immersed at a starting point. So as I say, it'll tell you, like we showed you earlier, about the elocutionist, the character focus. So this is, as I say, this is just a few pages just to give you that sort of flavour of text and how things are set out, how the things are going to be explained to you as a player and a GM. So as you can see, all of these pages we've shown you in that main rulebook, and then you also get to be able to print out these witness statements, and they're all from here. So there you are, www.montycookgames.com. go and check that out, and you'll be able to, as I say, do what I did there and download a nice section of bits. This is the role-playing player's guide, so if you are a player specifically, not the GM, you can download this. There are also physical copies of these available, and also some other bits and pieces that aren't or haven't got any sort of free downloads with them. But again, if you download this, this will give you as a player all you need to know to sort of kickstart your gaming experience of the books and everything else. So we've got, as I say, more and more of the pages from the book, but if you specifically want to get into it as a player, so as I say, you can see that some of this artwork and some of these pages were from the book itself. You just need to go onto the website, find the download section, and you can download these onto your devices and then print them out if you want to, like I have. I always find a physical copy is easier for me to use than sitting on a tablet or a screen. I just like to be able to read it as if I was reading a book or a magazine. So you've got your things here, you know, about your player sort of characters and creation and bits and pieces. You've got some of the characteristics and skills and stuff in here, bits about the equipment that we saw earlier, your torches, your bolt cutters. So you've got all of that, and then at the back we've got, again, you've got that consent checklist. So if you have a read through, you'll see what all of these are actually sort of to do with the game. So got a bit there about creating your character in 9 easy steps. So it'll go through all of this very comprehensively for you, and will give you some sort of guidance of how to do everything, and you will end up with a character sheet that you start off like this. If you print one off the website, you can get one of these or more for your party, and each player can have one of these. So this is where you're going to fill in all your bits and pieces, your special abilities, your ciphers, your skills, your attacks, your stats here, the name of your character, your focus, the character type. So everything that you need will be on here. You've got things to put your background, some notes, character arcs, your portrait if you want to put a picture of your character here, and again some more equipment. You'll get these to download. So again, this is just that witness statement page, but you can print off as many of these as you need. And yeah, you just sort of download all of these pages from the website, and they all come loose, and you know, you've got some nice pictures that you can also download and sort of give out to your party, just sort of show them what they're up against if they come across any of these creatures, or generic building pictures where you can say this is where you've had to go to. You've got some sort of cobwebbed pictures there with some spiders, and one of the rooms that you know, is probably within the depths of the Magnus Archives itself. And as I say, everything is downloadable that you've seen there in those sort of printout pages. They're all free for you to go down onto the website and take that information off and have a look. So once again, this is where you get it from, www.montycookgames.com. that's where you'll be able to get all of those. You'll be able to get some of the supplements. I believe there's also some things in there like card decks and one thing and another that you can potentially get. And then obviously you'll be able to get the rule book itself, and then you'll be winging your way into games of the Magnus Archives with you and your group, and hopefully you'll have a fantastic time whilst you're playing it. And for me, this is a very, very nice system. As I say, I'm looking forward to potentially getting a game of this sorted out in the not too distant future with a group. And yeah, I'm sort of well into the sort of X-Files and all of those sorts of bits and pieces. Again, you'll be able to have a check of all of that sort of stuff that they put in the back of the book, where you can draw information from, you know, like your Tales of the Unexpected, if you remember that from back in the day. They're still shown on the TV today, sort of thing. So check out all of that information. It's all laid out really nicely, and is a thoroughly well together book and game. So for me, it's going to get the Royal Seal of Approval for this particular RPG. Yeah, as I say, get onto their website and you'll be able to purchase a copy. They also attend some events. They were at the UK Games Expo this year, is where I first saw them, and they do a lot of other games as well. So not just this, you can have a look at all of the other systems and games that Monty Cook produce. And if you like the sound of it, check out the YouTube podcast, and you'll get a flavour of that. And if you just want to have a listen, it's a very, very well put together podcast and really very dramatic. So this is me, the Games Kingdom. So if you like what you see here, please feel free to check out all my other content at this particular address. Please click a like if you would on this video, and if you want to, then please subscribe to the channel. And every now and again I do a giveaway of a game, book, or something from my gaming collection. The next one will probably be when I hit the next lot of subscribers, so that will be about 300, I believe. I think we've got about 10 or 12 to get to that point, so I'm still sort of growing my subscriber base. We have a lot of views on some of these videos, but I'm still trying to get more and more subscribers to the actual channel. So if you're a subscriber, next time I do one of the giveaways, I'll contact you if you are the lucky person where your name is pulled out of the bag, and I will send you something game wise. So as I say, if you like the look of this, the Magnus Archives from Monty Cook Games, based on the podcast by Rusty Quill. And until we do another one, it's bye for now.